my preference to date is either a black, an American woman of African descent, or a a woman of African descent who has lived in this culture, Western culture, long enough that I don't have to, indoctrinate her in any kind of way.
What do you mean by indoctrinating?
Baby, you don't know what you do to me. Between me and you, I feel a chemistry. I won't let no one come and take your place. Cause the love you give, it can't be replaced. There's no one else can do like you do. That's why I'm in love with you. I wanna please you in any way I can. I wanna share my world.
Computer.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Karina and Amber, your co-hosts for Dating and Marriage Perspectives. Damn good to the last word. We are happy to have you back, our listeners and viewers. We have a returning guest. Marcus is joining us today to talk about a conversation about interracial relationships. But before we get into that, I don't want to forget my line, that before we get into the topic, we would like for you to either subscribe, comment, or like our show down below. So make sure you engage with us in that way, and follow us on Instagram too. So that's another way to keep up with what we're talking about.
And TikTok. Your girl's going crazy on TikTok over here. Sorry. I can't help it.
TikTok heavy.
Like I wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning thinking of TikToks that I can do.
You do not wake up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it's been disgusting. It's been bad. Yeah.
Wow. You're good at it. You look good.
Oh, thank you.
You're into it.
I know. I'm having fun.
And she's trying to get me into it too. It's going to be a little bit of a homework for her. But.
Yes.
Anyway, Marcus, welcome to our show. Back again. I love that you love to be here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen, and it's good to see you ladies too.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to engage into our experiences dating outside of our race. And before we get into that, Marcus did a little homework. Do you want to read for us what you found out about definition of race or dating outside the race?
Yes. So I'm just going to read the Merriam-Webster definition of race. And there are quite a few definitions. Some of them are archaic or obsolete or dated. That's how they categorize them. So the one at the top is the one that I will read. And it says, any race, any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of shared ancestry. So basically, people of shared ancestry who tend to look alike.
Okay. And do you agree? Do you agree with that definition? Are you good with that definition?
I'm really comfortable speaking within the context of that definition.
Okay.
And if I can just add, I think of race in that definition. There's like only a few in the world, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, on that topic, I'll just start the questions off then, because we know my answer. But for you guys, have either of you guys dated outside of your race?
Yeah, I have. Well, and we can also dig into your dating history too. We all know where you're at with your boo and your love. But yeah, I've dated outside of my race. I've dated white. I've dated when you think about race, like that's the difference. Because I was gonna go into ethnicities, which is different. Because I was gonna say Persian, Cape Verdean, Puerto Rican, Haitian, Vietnamese, Filipino, Black men. So yeah, so different ethnicities, and definitely white men. Mostly German men. by the way.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
mostly German men.
It's interesting. It's like I'm meeting you for the first time over here. What about you, Marcus? Have you dated outside of your race?
Yeah, so I've dated women who are not Black,
Mhm.
or who are not Americans of African descent. And I would even, in some way, in some context, consider like the African woman and the Caribbean woman to be interracial dating to an extent. But yes, I've dated every single race except for um, Aboriginal people and of like Australia or Madagascar or something, and Pacific Islander. I've never gone there, but Asian, European, um, what's the word that they use for people? Middle Eastern. There
Hmm.
are a few words for that. And Native American. Yeah.
I feel like you're just saying you're worldwide here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did a lot. I did a lot of dating.
No, I'm not mad about it. I think that's a great thing.
Worldly here, worldly.
Yes. Do you have and not to put you on the spot, but do either of you have a preference?
For who we date based on
Yeah.
race?
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
I don't. I
Good.
don't.
I do.
Do you?
So, yeah. So when I date, I I don't. My mindset is that I really only truly recognize the human race.
Hmm.
I see us all as people, regardless of who our ancestors were. When I date someone outside of what this definition and most of our definitions of race are, I consider it cross-cultural or intercultural dating, is what I consider it. Although that can be a little funny because I've dated Black women who grew up. I dated a Black woman who grew up in Nebraska.
Mhm.
And so culturally, she was the same as all of the people of European descent that she grew up around.
Hmm.
Like green bean casserole white is what she was, you know. But
I'm sorry, but
I don't want to laugh,
that
but
will be on the cut. No.
damn.
so what happened to me through dating is at this point, I'm a little bit weather beaten with a few things. Indoctrinating a woman into my cultural background as an American of African descent, and adapting to other cultures because some cultures are so strong, and the family structure within those cultures just demand that you not only assimilate but just become one of. And that, I don't think that people understand how much energy it takes to both teach someone about your culture and to adapt to theirs.
Hmm. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, your preference is a Black woman, or
My
the
preference my preference to date is either a Black, an American woman of African descent, or uh, a woman of African descent who has lived in this culture, Western culture, long enough that I don't have to, indoctrinate her in any kind of way.
What do you mean by indoctrinating?
About, oh, for example, I dated Caribbean and European Black women who like to use the N word with the hard R when they're mad at an American of African descent, and that ain't never gonna fly with me.
Hmm.
I also have dated Black women from other countries like Caribbean and Europe who um, seem to be okay being identifying as Black,
Oh, wait, you're muted somehow.
separating themselves and saying, "Well, I'm
Oh.
that Black. I'm not Black." Like
Oh.
they'll check in and check out, and that's frustrating. Yeah.
Mhm. Geez, could you on that last one, because I just don't understand how people choose to be Black or not. Um, was that because of was that like Caribbean one, or was that the one from Nebraska?
No, so never her. Like she was like always familiar. She was very interesting because she fully embraced, being a Black woman in this country. However, the things that she liked to do, her traditions, they were really in tune with, what we define as white people in this country. But the experiences that I had with those other women that I described were more so just a they them thing when it was, you know, convenient for them. It seems like I don't know. It's kind of rear view mirror now, but I do remember a lot of the frustration that came along with that. So when I date now, I like to try to get a vibe check on, you know, okay, who are you? Who do you identify as culturally? It's kind of important.
So what, I'm just curious. So what would be a good answer for somebody if you ask them, who do you identify with?
I would not ask somebody. I would not ask somebody that. I would, because no matter what they say, I'm going to decide how they come across.
Okay.
With their best efforts and with as much respect as I would like to have, still in my mind, I'm going to say, okay, she's really this or she's really that. And at the end of the day, in dating, almost none of it really matters because I still continue to this day to date cross-culturally, cross what we define as racially. However, the preference would be what I defined earlier.
Have you ever dated somebody? Sorry, Karina, I'm just gonna keep asking questions.
I know. I'm just
sorry.
We only have half an hour.
I
And
know.
man, there's so many things I want to ask right now.
Okay, go ahead and ask, please. Ask away. I'll write my question down.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Because
okay,
please go. Yeah.
Okay. My last question for this question is, when you talk about, there's times we talk about white chocolate. Right. So somebody who, is a different culture, but has dated, they've been around Black people, or have you dated somebody?
Look at them and you just know.
Have you ever dated somebody who was like white chocolate? And how did that feel? Or was there a concern or what was
I dated, I'm sorry, I think I got you. So I dated a few white women who would be considered that. So you have the ones who I would not date again, and those are the ones who they call it misappropriation now. It's kind of like the women who are pretending so hard and trying so hard. And then you have the women who were actually raised in that culture. Yes. What's really most important though for me is how comfortable are you? Because we had white people in my neighborhood. There was a young man who grew up in my neighborhood, and he's like, his skin's white, but he's Black and Mexican. I mean, straight up. He speaks Spanish, he eats chitlins, and that's just what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Kay, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had some questions as we were going.
I am kind of connecting with what you're saying a little bit, Marcus. When you said, please correct me if I'm wrong, when you said it doesn't matter how she identifies, it matters how she comes across. Is that?
Yeah, like my opinion, yeah.
Okay. So trigger for me.
Trigger alert. We're gonna have a red button flashing on the screen.
Well, so I'm Haitian. And I'm Canadian. And those things are going to stay with me always, no matter where I live. And living in the United States, I am reminded many times that I am not from here. So I dated this guy, Black man. I dated this guy, and often he would say, "You're not Black." I'm like, sorry, what do you mean? You're not Black. You're not Black. I'm like, what do you mean? And part of that was he was used to dating Black women who just behave and talked in certain ways that I just didn't. I didn't. He was used to having conversations with women where they cussed each other out, they called each other names. The moment he called me a bitch, we were done.
Oh, that was that one.
But yeah, that one. But that's what he was used to. And I guess he connected that with being black, acting black.
Mm.
And he told me, you're not black. Maybe I'm not black enough. And that came from a black man. So, I told him, I'm pretty sure I'm black. So if I tell you I'm black, why are you second guessing that I'm black?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to your point, I didn't come across black enough for him. And to me, that's problematic. To me, that's,
Okay.
I don't know. Of
Can I please comment on that?
course you can.
It seems like it just takes a certain level of ignorance to oh, first of all you have to do to be black in this country is have ancestors of African descent. My frustration with some of the Caribbean and European women of African descent who didn't consider themselves black was that you might not consider yourself that, but that's exactly how you're going to get treated. Because that lady in Arkansas, she doesn't care that you are, St. Lucian, or she doesn't care that you're from Bristol. She sees a colored woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'm not going to be the one to teach you that. As far as acting black, I grew up with that. I know what that is, but that was ignorant, and it was taught subconsciously throughout my culture and my neighborhood that being overt in your expression of your culture is what validated your race.
Hmm.
See, black is what they call the race, but what is do you act a racial way? Because my question then would be, so that means there's no difference between a Russian, an Estonian, and a French person. They're all of European descent, but culturally they couldn't be more different. But they're all white. So does the Russian person, because they don't speak French, not act white enough when they're in France? Are they called to question about that? So I just wanted to comment on that and say that just spoke to more of a level of ignorance. What I decide about someone culturally has nothing to do with ethnic vulgarities or an amplified or even a muted expression of who they are culturally. The only qualifying thing for a woman to be black is, I mean, I can look and tell in most cases. Of course, but I did go on a blind date with a woman who had to tell me that she was of African descent. I didn't know. And that's only happened to me a few times in my life.
That's very interesting because, well, two things. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. For one, I mean, you guys know that I'm married to, a white man, right? European descent, German and Irish. And my kids, look much lighter than I do. So it's one thing I always tell my kids, I don't care what the world sees you as soon as they see mommy, they're going to say, okay, you're black. But it's interesting that at this age, they are already struggling with that concept, especially when their friends at school say you're not black. But yeah, oh yeah, baby, you are, that's my first comment. Secondly, going back to dating, it's interesting because I have never heard that from, about, I've probably heard that kind of in passing, that Caribbean people think they may be better than American of African descent, which I'm not really sure why. I heard a joke before and they said because we got dropped off first, right? Maybe that's why, or something like that. But I have not heard of them thinking that they are better than blacks here, and definitely not the R word, with the N word with the hard R. I don't even understand that. That's crazy to me. But Kay, to your point, yes, ignorance is bliss, right? Like that's probably how that person grew up, and that's just all he knew. But if he would really kind of dive in to see like what we are and who we are as Black women, and more than just, maybe a tenth of what they see, then they would see the beauty in us and what we can do. Anyways, all right, let me ask you another question.
Sorry. I know, because we can go.
I feel like we're veering off. Yeah. That'll be another show. When I do have another question. When you guys date out of your race, do you guys get the look?
Yep.
Have you guys gotten the look from either your, your partner's culture or your culture?
Yep.
And maybe explain what the look is. Yes, both of you have it, right?
It's a long stare, and it's not a comfortable stare.
What does it mean to you? What are you interpreting that as? Not that you're interpreting it wrong.
Ninja, what are you looking at?
Right, yeah. No, but what they're thinking.
Disappointment or for reals, or what about me? Or traitor?
Oh.
Or it's not those are the things that just kind of come up right away.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Marcus?
Recently, okay, I'm 45 years old. I've lived too long and tried too hard to care. And I am blessed to know that what you think of me is none of my business until you bring it to my attention. When I've seen those looks, I notice them and I move on to the next thing. But it's still very fresh in my mind when it used to hurt. And from Black woman, I would get what I interpret as a look that Karina described as disappointing or traitor or something like that. And from white people, I get a look that I interpret based on things that I've heard other white people say. So like I've heard white people actually say these certain things in conversation, so that if I've gone on a date with a white woman and people stare at me, those comments that they made would echo in my ear. And it was always along the line of the white man with the Black woman being kind of fetishized a little bit, if that's even a word, or just like view that as more of a fetish. Or
you mean like he must have junk? He must have a big something, right? Like that's what she's after?
No.
Oh, sorry. I interpreted that.
No, just
I'm sorry.
No. It's good to know that a married woman would still take it there.
No.
Your husband's lucky.
It's the topic of our next show.
Man. That's still very fresh in your head. No, fetish meaning the contrast of cultures, the whatever that means to a person, and it could go a little bit deeper. I know that I'm guilty of that when I see a white man and a Black woman together. A Black man and a white woman together. If they're both attractive people, my head will go to, okay, there might be more of a physical attraction there for them, which that has no base. It could be something completely different. And also, I'll admit that when I see a white man with a Black woman, the first thing I think, and I know from experience and from my personal friends, it's not always the case. But when I see a white man with a Black woman, the first thing I think is that he's treating her really good. And that ain't always the case.
Well, that's so interesting because I was telling Karina off air. I remember being at a club and I was with a white guy, and this Black guy came by and he said he must have a lot of money. And I was like, well, damn, no, it's because he's not talking shit like you are right there. That's what I'm thinking out loud, but interesting. Okay. What about you, Kay?
What was the question?
I don't know. Don't ask me. You just
She
go off.
answered the
Well,
question.
You just
She answered the question already.
I did. Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
went
did?
first, and then
Oh,
Marcus.
that's right.
followed.
Honestly,
Oh,
because I almost finished this drink now, and that's what happened. My bad.
I wanna know from you. You're married 10 years with a white
Yeah.
man.
Mhm.
Oh shit! I almost fell off my chair.
See, another cut.
That would be good footage.
That's right.
That was what?
That would be really good footage.
Shit.
That's how we would start.
Bloopers.
That's right.
Do you get the look?
I do, but honestly, I feel like I get it from well, I don't feel like out here. You know what's interesting is I live in Vegas, and never have I seen so many mixed couples. So I don't
Oh
feel
yeah.
like, right? Like I didn't know that. And so I really didn't even realize that. And I've seen the most Black women with white guys ever that I've ever seen anywhere.
Mhm.
I think that's extremely interesting and fun, and it makes me feel very comfortable.
Mhm.
At the same time, yeah, every now and then and it pisses me off because I just don't like to be stared at in general. Because of course, maybe it's something from in the past, I don't really know. But when you walk in a room, you're like, what are you looking at? You know, why are you staring? But that could be some of my insecurities coming out. Maybe they're just looking at, you know, a 6'4" white guy and, you know, 5'7" Black woman. I don't know, but it's just very, very interesting. But I don't get it as much as I feel like I used to, or maybe I just don't give a fuck anymore.
So I did. Just so you know, Kay. I gave the stare to Amber when I first met her.
Did you? I didn't even notice that.
Well, I mean, it's still interesting to me to see it.
Okay.
And then there was another guest at that function who also was doing interracial dating. And I looked and checked things out and drew up all kinds of stories in my head.
Really?
And you know what? Oh, of course. Of course I did. Even the last time I saw you, I drew up even more stories in my head.
Oh, that's so
And
funny.
you know what? There's those stories are none of your business. It's all about what you let come out of your mouth and how you treat people. And do
Sure.
you treat them any different? So once again, just going back to the stare, I mean, people can stare for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
You know, people stare when a man pushes his wife in a wheelchair through the door of a restaurant. And what is that stare about?
Does it bother you when you see interracial relationships?
No.
Okay.
I will keep this very brief. I hope that in my lifetime there will be a presidential candidate who runs on an extreme ticket who makes interracial marriage compulsory. I wish that everyone in this world was banned from procreating with someone of their same quote unquote race for at least 2 generations so we can get rid of all this race bullshit. Because I actually believe that this concept of race is one of the things that makes us easier to control as a society. I'm sorry to get
absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely constructive.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will stop the race issue if we just told everybody, hey, go fuck somebody. Oh, sorry. Go have babies with someone who looks different from you. But it would definitely mess up the purest ideal that's out there for people who don't believe in mixing.
You know, hopefully at one point love will just be love and love will be enough, you know, which is what you guys are both saying. It would be nice, but it's going to take some time, I think, unfortunately. I tell my kids, hopefully you guys change the world.
That's what our parents said about us. And
then we started drinking and they're like, oh, fuck. These fuckers. I'll rely on grandkids.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, do you guys have any other statements? Do you guys have any concerns about interracial dating?
The families.
What do you mean?
Oh, you know what? That's another question we had. Are you or have any of us been pressured? Pressure might be a hard word, but for lack of better words, pressured or expected by family to date within your race or date outside of your race?
So I'm very lucky. On one side of my family, we have had marriages to people of Middle Eastern, European, and Latin descent, Latino descent. And the other side of my family, we haven't had a lot of that, but it's not been ever made an issue. And in addition to that, my mother in particular, I didn't even really know what race or racism was until I had to learn it from school. My mother never put any of that in my head.
Oh,
So I've never felt that pressure. But when the reason I brought up the family thing is when I have dated cross culturally, and I make that distinction because I had the whole thing with, Caribbean in-laws. Uh, that once again, that indoctrination process could be something, but particularly when dating people who are not of African descent, one of the issues that comes up are the comments and what people find to be jokes that a person has to endure. And you kind of have to figure, am I more interested in continuing to date this woman than I am offended by some of their ignorance? And if you feel compelled to cut it off because you have to accept that you're going to marry this family too, are you going to keep going with it with the expectation that they may or may not ever stop? There's never anything you can do to teach them otherwise. Or do you just decide that, you're just going to cut it off and just not date anyone who's in a family that will make you do things that make you feel uncomfortable?
would you stop? But you wouldn't stop dating somebody because of their race, or because your family said don't date
No,
this person because of their race?
we went over this last time. That some of that stuff, like y'all was saying, trigger me. The thought of me,
Oh, we
the
remember you were triggered.
yeah, I was very triggered. The thought that and I'm triggered again. The thought of anybody outside of my prayers to God choosing who my mate is preposterous. It's one of the most ridiculous things that I could think of. I will write anybody off who doesn't support my love for the woman that I choose.
I'm going to ask you this question, and I know you can't take it as far as a Black woman, but I'm curious what you would think, right? Because Karina and I was telling Karina about this, how my cousin, he had posted, and we're fine now. We had a nice long discussion about this, but he posted a picture on his Instagram account, and it was a Black woman, beautiful Black woman, and a white guy, and it said, "When she comes home to her master." And so, yeah, well, I was pissed, and I felt like I wouldn't roll top. But I mean, as a Black man, what is your reaction? First of all, I guess, I'm sure you would never post anything like that, but as a Black man seeing that, like, what are your thoughts just from your perspective?
People who marry, okay, so let me just talk about white people and Black people, white Americans and Black Americans. When a white man marries a Black woman and a Black man marries a white man, they typically have to put up with so much shit that I don't think it's usually possible that there's any dynamic there other than love.
Hmm.
It's probably rarely some kind of partnership or anything like that's probably love, because I think that there has to be love there for people to be willing to face that kind of BS together, knowing that they'll be dealing with it for the rest of their life, knowing that me, white guy, is a few times a year or once every couple of years, my wife's going to get in bed and tell me about an Instagram post she saw that pissed her off. That hurts. That hurts. To see someone from your community or your culture, with a meme, post something that kind of disenfranchising to you just because of who you love. I think that the whole idea or concept of someone restricting themselves based on some assumed or even inferred indebtedness to their culture is crazy.
Mm.
But people have a right to do it.
Yeah.
People have a right to say, I'm not going to date anyone who's outside of my culture. People have a right to say, I'm not going to date anyone who's not my skin color. People even have a right to say, I'll go to Haitians. I mean, I've known so many Haitian people, and I've had Haitian dudes tell me, I'll do all these things in the world, but I can't bring anything but a Haitian girl home. They've told me that. They know they better not. She might accept the Dominican, DR, but my mother won't accept anything other than a Haitian woman, typically. And that's strictly nationality. That's not even ethnicity or race. That's nationality.
Mm.
Well, it is ethnicity, but it's nationality.
Haitian, that's a type.
My nationality is Canadian, but I'm still Haitian. Ethnicity wise, how I grew up was Haitian values. That's what it means to me with ethnicity.
Okay.
Ooh, I can't wait to get into that topic for another one.
Which one?
I can't wait to get into that topic for another podcast.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
gosh.
Yeah, I don't know, Kay. You have anything else to share or
There's so much to share, but we just don't have the time unless we do a part 2.
do a part 2? I mean, if Marcus, you'll come
Yeah,
back.
you could talk about we could do a part 2 where we talk about the interracial dating as a fetish.
Ooh, shoot. Like,
Am I his big booty fantasy? Am I, as a black woman, this white man's big booty fantasy that he had all through teenage? Yeah.
we
And
did talk about that, actually. We did have that conversation somewhat before about how black men, like some
We're not an experiment.
exactly. Yeah.
am I, as a black
We're not an
man,
experiment.
her
This is not-
mandingo?
this
Am
is
I,
not
as a
for
black
fish
man, her
fucking.
mandingo
This-
fetish?
Yeah. No, I'd like to talk about that. That's another episode. That'd be a good one. Yeah.
Oh, it's been fun, ladies.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate, being able to come on and do a chat with you that's not triggering.
Listen, we're hopefully
That's
we
not
always
triggering.
if we're not triggering you, we're not doing our job.
We're not doing our job. We're not learning.
To be able to hold it, because that one thing, like I said, and I know we run out of time, just to even ask me that question, right?
Which
You know,
question?
the when you ask me the question, I have to think about it, and thinking about it is offensive to me. Of dating someone, feeling like I have to date within my culture or race because of what the expectations are for my family. That's
It's
crazy.
interesting. That's triggering
It's not,
because
though. It's reality.
There's a lot of, like you said, right? I mean, think about the Haitian friends that you have that aren't allowed to bring somebody home who's not Haitian or maybe the DR. So that's not really a triggering question. Maybe for you, how you were brought up, but
they've allowed themselves to not be allowed. And I've established very well in my life that I make my decisions. My parents don't make my decisions anymore.
Well, you are your own
There's
boss.
so much in that to unpack.
Let's unpack
We're
it on the next
socialized
episode.
being. We're socialized being. The things that we think isn't right is because we're socialized to do and think the way that we do. So for a Haitian family to say, you can only bring a Haitian woman here, something may have happened where that person dated someone outside of the ethnicity or nationality or race. And it's a trigger for them. It's an experience they don't want to go through again.
The great thing, the good thing about a Haitian man not bringing a Haitian woman home is she'll never be expected to make the perfect griot.
That's not
Oh,
good
see, that was
way.
triggering. See?
That's not good either way.
Everybody's getting triggered up in here. We gonna end it right here, and then we'll finish the conversation offline. I feel like he did that on purpose because you triggered him last time. And
No,
now
I
it was
didn't.
his turn to trigger you.
No, I did not.
I didn't trigger
I
anybody
was trying
last
to be
time.
funny.
I just repeated what he said.
Look, you guys are hilarious. I love it. I love it. We're gonna wrap this up and then finish this offline so you guys can finish that conversation. But Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And always, our viewers, our listener, please send us some input. We've been getting some really good input lately on our shows, and we can't wait to share with you guys some of the latest emails that we've been getting and conversations that we've been having. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, you know we at. All right. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Deuce.